When I was a kid, I learned from my fighter pilot dad. My goal is to earn the right to vote, not just to have it because I'm black. It was a shocking and unexpected turn of events when Harris Faulkner, the calm and professional Fox News anchor, made a crazy statement that shocked everyone. Faulkner is known for always keeping her cool. Her latest news has completely destroyed her public image, causing a lot of confusion and speculation in the media. What could this news be, and how will it change her job for good? Come with us as we figure out the real reason for the news. What happened recently with Harris Faulkner was not what anyone expected, remarks that caused a stir about Kamala Harris. For more than 20 years, Harris Faulkner has been a well-known figure in television news. She has won 6 Emmy Awards for her interviewing skills. Faulkner's exit from Fox News has caused a lot of interest and speculation, even though she was known for being a great interviewer. She has had a great career based on hard work and knowledge, but she has decided to quit soon after saying some hurtful things about Vice President Kamala Harris after a recent debate. Some people think that Faulkner's leaving the network might have something to do with how strongly she spoke out against Vice President Kamala Harris in a recent discussion. The organizers of the debate were criticized by Faulkner because they didn't address what she thought were Harris's false claims. These strong criticisms made people wonder if her strong views and criticisms might have made her relationships with politicians worse and helped explain why she quit Fox News. Harris Faulkner recently talked about the fight that happened on Tuesday between Vice President Kamala Harris and past President Donald Trump. Faulkner said that Harris made a lot of false claims during the discussion that were so obvious that she could remember them, not having to use Google. Some people were upset about the debate because a BC News host, David Muir, and Lindsay Davis were scolded for constantly interrupting Trump to check his facts after he spoke. The moderators were criticized by Faulkner for not checking Harris's facts when she gave false information about Trump's views on in vitro fertilization (IVF). Howard, who used to work for the Democrats, said that big TV networks like ABC are held to a higher standard of journalistic integrity and should have done more thorough fact-checking. Concerns were made by Faulkner about why this oversight happened in the Harris case, even though Muir asked Harris about her changing views on issues like gun control and fracking. Howard pointed out that Trump often says things that are easy to disprove or deny. In response, Faulkner pointed out that Harris's mistakes about IVF were easy to check from memory. During the debate, Harris made a lot of mistakes about things like abortion and Project 2025, but the judges didn't correct her or check what she said. The journalists and people who follow her are looking into why she left. With ideas about outside forces and government interference, Faulkner's future plans became more interesting. Check out the video to learn about her past that led her to this point. Her childhood and early work. Harris Faulkner was born at Fort McPherson in Atlanta, Georgia, on October 13, 1965. Officer Colonel Bobby R. Harris. Her father had a great career as a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army. As an Army pilot, he also served there and did 3 tours in Vietnam. Faulkner grew up as a military dependent, which meant that she lived in many places, such as a military base in Stuttgart, West Germany, while her father was flying for the U.S. Army. Faulkner finished her schooling at the University of California, Santa Barbara, where she got a bachelor's degree in mass communications. Going to school for this helped her get a job in the media. At first, she worked for LA Weekly as a freelance business writer and got paid $50 per story. After that, she switched to TV, starting with a job at KCOP TV in Los Angeles. She worked her way up and is now a reporter and host at WCTV in Greenville, North Carolina. From 1992 to 2000, Faulkner kept people in Kansas City interested at WDF-TV. She did, however, have problems and unwanted interest from someone from her past in North Carolina during that time. Even though things were hard, Faulkner kept going and moved up in her job by joining KSTP-TV in Minneapolis-St. Paul. She was an important part of the station's evening news team, but she left in July 2004. In 2005, Faulkner moved up in her job when she joined Fox News. In the new season of A Current Affair, which finished in October 2005, she worked as a correspondent. After that, she had her own network show called Fox Report Weekend, which she ran from 2011 to 2017. Faulkner also covered the 2018 midterm elections and filled in for Shepard Smith and Martha McCallum on their shows sometimes. Although Greg Gutfeld left Red Eye, Faulkner often appeared on the show before Gutfeld left. At the moment, she is a regular guest on his nightly show Gutfeld and comes in as a co-host on The Five sometimes. Harris Faulkner started co-hosting the Fox News show Outnumbered in April 2014, and she brought her own unique point of view to the show. Faulkner's job changed over time, and by 2017, she was the host of Outnumbered Overtime, which focused on serious news stories instead of light talk. By early 2021, Faulkner had grown her work by starting the Faulkner Focus. This showed how committed she was to reporting news that mattered and to journalism with depth. It was in June 2023 that Faulkner came in as host of Fox News Tonight when Tucker Carlson quit. She had strong views while she was hosting, and one of them was that she thought religion was having trouble. She also talked about how scared she was for the safety of women and children and joked that her names were USA. During her time on the show, she brought a fresh point of view and a lot of energy, which showed that she was dedicated to giving interesting and important news coverage. The first jobs Faulkner had were at KSTP, an ABC station in St. Paul, Minnesota. There, she won 4 area Emmy Awards. Aside from winning the award for Best Anchor 3 years in a row, from 2002 to 2004, she also won an Emmy in 1998 for leading a special news show called Eyewitness to War. She also received the prestigious Amelia Earhart Pioneering Lifetime Achievement Award for her work in charitable causes. As of 2021, Variety's New York Women's Impact Report gave Faulkner an award. Part of the reason she was included was because of the wise talk she had with former President Donald Trump in 2020 after the sad death of George Floyd. Yet, Harris Faulkner is more than just her professional successes. She recently let people into her private life. Life in private. When asked about her life, Faulkner shared some private details during a conversation from her Manhattan office. She talked about growing up in a military family, how much she loves Kansas City food, and how much. She also told a funny story about how she met her husband. The conversation then moved on to a trip she took to Vietnam that changed her life, and that she called a special mission. Faulkner talked about how her trip had a big effect on her, on both her personal life and her work. Because her father was in Vietnam, she was interested in the military and called it a military brat mission. According to Faulkner, she went to Vietnam with a dedicated group of 7 people from Fox Nation to make powerful material for the streaming service. Their main goal was to find the best way to honor and thank Vietnam soldiers, especially since the time of the war was difficult and controversial. The way soldiers from different wars were treated was very different, as Harris Faulkner pointed out. Were met with sadness, confusion, and mental pain instead of the joy and thanks that are usually shown to others. Soldiers from Vietnam did not always get the honor and respect they deserved, unlike soldiers from other wars. Faulkner talked about how this changed her attitude. Faulkner talked about her trip to Vietnam and how her deep interest in this communist country with important ties to American history led to deep and enlightening meetings. She saw the trip in 2023 as an extension of her divine duty. Because she grew up in a military family, this trip was very important to her personally. Its main goal was also to put light on the complicated history of the Vietnam War. A special project for the streaming service was started by Faulkner with the help of her Fox Nation team. Their goal was to honor and recognize Vietnam War veterans, a group that had to deal with a lot of problems because the war was so divisive and tore the country apart. Soldiers of wars before Vietnam did not always get thanks, but soldiers of the Vietnam War did. Faulkner thought about how people in the United States could show these soldiers their appreciation. Being raised in a family with a strong military background taught Faulkner a lot about being flexible and strong. She was raised in different places because her parents were in the military. This gave her a strong sense of pride. She loved listening to her dad talk about how America became a great country when it was young. Even though racism was a problem at the time, he had a strong belief in the Constitution's power to improve the lives of its people and lift the country. Saw his time in the military as having a greater purpose and thought it was important for African Americans to do their part. His unwavering love for his country and strong belief in American ideals had a big impact on Faulkner. She thought about loyalty and how important it was to honor those who have served their country differently because of these beliefs. Faulkner talked about her father, who had died on Christmas morning 2020, sharing touching stories of how positive he was about life, even when things were bad. Even though he was done with the military, he decided to become a math and physics teacher because he thought it was important to help young minds. Faulkner remembered with fondness how he always helped and inspired those around him, showing how dedicated he was to the success of future generations. Harris Faulkner told them about her father's quiet death that morning because she was thinking about how hard it had been for her to enjoy Christmas since he died. After getting dressed, her dad went to see her sister for an early Christmas lunch. When he didn't show up, her sister got worried and asked Ronnie and Tim, their uncles, to go check on him. The sad news that her father had died in his sleep was told to her when they got back. Some comfort came from the idea that God had kindly taken him to a better place, even though they were still very sad. Even though Faulkner was in a lot of pain after losing her father, she found comfort in the thought that he died peacefully. It was very important to her that she thought he stayed strong and positive until the very end. When asked about her accomplishments and the first Emmy and Headliner awards she won, Faulkner spoke very highly of her time in Kansas City. After a short time in Greenville, North Carolina, she remembered how her business really took off in Kansas City. For Faulkner, Kansas City was both a professional launching pad and a place where she felt deeply linked to the people who lived there. People would often ask her what effect being open about her faith had. But she was sure when she said she thought she was in the right place. She didn't openly talk about her faith, but she found that conversations often turned to it, especially when she was talking about hard things. Her coworkers and viewers saw how her faith gave her strength when things got tough, like when she was reporting on natural disasters like storms and floods. Phil Witt, her co-host, made her feel very supported. And the whole weather and sports team who supported her as a worker and as a young woman trying to move up in her job. She also talked about the ties her family has to Kansas City. After moving to Denver and then Texas, her folks always loved going to see her there. They grew to love the city so much that they even opened a temporary barbecue rib joint that served food with both Kansas City and Texas tastes. Faulkner laughed. As she talked about how excited her parents were about this project and how they were always there for her at big events like when she received the Amelia Earhart Lifetime Achievement Award in Atchison, Kansas. Her dad even spoke up at the last minute, talking about his time living on a military base in Kansas. It made the event more personal. Her folks were very helpful when she bought her first house on Ward Parkway in Kansas City, which is something she still remembers fondly. Being with her parents as a young woman starting out on her path to success left a lasting mark on her mind. During that time, she felt very thankful. There was one image that wouldn't leave her mind, even though she had a lot of happy memories. It was clear that this image was very important to her and very personal. The unwavering love and support of her parents had a huge effect on her life, helping her grow emotionally and deciding what she wanted to do with her work. The chance meeting between Harris Faulkner and her future husband was a very interesting and unusual event. And a very competitive local news scene. They were competitors, but they also worked together. Her husband worked at a well-known Minneapolis CBS station. At the same time, she did a great job as a news anchor on a BC station KSTP. Even though their network positions were different, both had a lot of respect for their work. He was known for being a good investigative reporter and for being able to tell clear, well-researched stories live on TV. Faulkner, on the other hand, was an example to many because she was the first black woman to host the evening news in Minnesota. Thanks to Norm Coleman, who was mayor of St. Paul at the time, they met in a strange way. He became interested in Faulkner after seeing a commercial of her running along the river. The mayor was interested in her after meeting her by chance, and he asked to meet her through their common friend, Julie Nelson. Julie, who worked with Faulkner's future husband at the 6 p.m. news, was shocked when the mayor asked them to do something, but they did it professionally and quietly. Before setting up the introduction, she made sure to get approval. This link added a bit of mystery to Faulkner's already competitive relationship with the man she would marry in the local news business. According to her, the people who worked for her were some of the nicest she had ever worked with, and she trusted Julie's judgment. Faulkner felt better when Julie told him she was sure he was a good guy. Because of this, when Julie's birthday party came around, they planned to meet up in person. Even though things took a slightly surprising turn, he came with a friend. This particular detail made the situation more interesting and funny, but Faulkner wasn't sure how much more information people would want to hear. The way they became close, though, is a big part of what makes her personal story so interesting. It shows that real relationships can be made even in a fast-paced, competitive field. Faulkner also wrote about other things that happened in her life, like how she dealt with having a stressful job as a journalist and being a mother, as well as how she thought about big problems in society, like race in the US. During the talk, she thought about her path and stressed that her successes were not just a matter of luck, but of hard work and a determination to make her own way. The fact that she was able to handle problems in both her personal and professional life showed how tough and dedicated she was. Harris Faulkner said she wants to be known for how much she loved and cared for her children as a mother. She talked about how this belief affected every part of her life, especially how she raised her 2 mixed-race children, who were 12 and 14. Faulkner thought that one of the most important parts of being a good mother was helping her daughters find their mission. She told them to work hard to be successful and do good things for the world at the same time. Faulkner also talked about how important it is to be kind and compassionate, seeing them as strengths rather than weaknesses. Faulkner talked about the qualities that make a good leader, focusing on toughness and self-confidence. She talked about how hard it is for women to be told to be less aggressive, but she insisted that it was important to get past these problems. She said that growth and success in life come from not giving up in the face of uncertainty or social pressures that try to limit human potential. She talked about how women's roles are changing in today's society and how younger women are more sure of their skills and worth. It used to be seen negatively, but now it represents women's freedom and progress around the world. When Faulkner talked about her work as a journalist, she talked about the day of the terrible Sandy Hook school killing. The tragedy of what had happened hit her when she saw a funeral car at the scene. She chose to take a moment to think and reflect with her audience, giving them time to process the upsetting news. Part of the way she reported was getting everyone to think about what they were doing. Trying to connect with people during tough times. Faulkner remembered an important part of her 2020 interview with former President Donald Trump. While they were talking about the protests after George Floyd's death, she spoke up to tell Trump that Floyd's last words were a plea for his mother. Faulkner saw this as a time that made them more likable, going beyond their normal roles as interviewer and interviewee. For her, it showed how real interactions between people can go beyond even the most public situations. Faulkner talked about how hard it is to get used to working from home, especially during the pandemic. She talked about how she successfully switched to broadcasting from home and stressed how important it was for her job to be flexible. Making sure there was a balance between work and home life was very important to her. She pushed for the right to work from home when necessary, especially for women who were juggling work and children. Faulkner was proud of how hard she worked and how dedicated she was that it helped her become successful as a woman of color with her own daytime TV show. She promised to take an active role in discussions about the future of women in the workplace and use her position to inspire and encourage others. Before we can fully understand why Harris Faulkner quit Fox News, we need to look at some of the less well-known parts of her personal and work life that have shaped her into the person she is today. A few facts about Faulkner. For many years, Harris Faulkner has been a well-known figure in the field as an experienced writer. 6 Emmy Awards have been given to her, and she has made an impact at Fox News since 2005. During her work, Faulkner has written about a lot of different topics, such as extreme weather, town hall meetings, and state fairs. In her online bio from 2006, she said that she wanted to inspire others before she left, which showed how dedicated she was to her job and how much of an effect she had. Faulkner launched her new show, The Faulkner Focus, in 2021. This solidified her image as an experienced reporter with many more stories to tell. The actress is a well-known face on TV, but not everyone knows about all the parts of her personal and work life. She made history when she became Fox's first black female afternoon anchor, making a big splash when she began hosting different shows for the network in 2014. She became a regular on Fox's afternoon lineup when she became a co-host on Outnumbered in April 2014, and then the host of Outnumbered Overtime in 2017. When The Faulkner Focus came out in 2021, it was another big moment in her career. Faulkner's work started out small in the Midwest. Even though he now lives in a busy city, Faulkner worked as an anchor in Kansas City, Missouri from 1992 to 2000. This job helped her improve her skills and grow as a writer. After working for a while in Missouri, she moved up in her job at KSTP-TV in Minnesota, where she worked from 2000 to 2004. Faulkner's success as a journalist shows how determined she is and how she can get through tough situations. She is also proud of growing up in the Midwest. In an interview with a Canadian magazine, Faulkner made it clear that her accomplishments and popularity ratings are not the only signs of her success. She talked about how important it was for her to be a black woman in charge of her own TV show, that her job has a bigger effect in terms of visibility and inspiring other people. Faulkner has also had to deal with stereotypical ideas about her political views because of her race, gender, and membership in a right media platform. Even though people think these things about her, she stays positive and focuses on her work. In an interview with the Associated Press in 2020, Faulkner talked about how people quickly judge her without really getting to know how deep and varied she is. She likes shocking these people by questioning what they think they know. Faulkner's co-workers have always admired how skilled she is and how hard she works. Not only has she won 6 Emmy Awards, but she has also been praised for the careful and thorough way she reports news, which has made her a recognized journalist in the field. During the Black Lives Matter movement, Faulkner was praised for her insightful talk with former President Donald Trump. Bill Grisson of the Columbia Journalism Review said that Faulkner's method to the interview was unique because it included her views as a parent and a black woman. Most of the time, journalists don't take this unique method, which is marked by accuracy and care. Grisson's words made her feel both proud and humble, which shows how important it is for journalists to show facts, truth, and strength. Over the course of her career, Faulkner has been shaped by many events and experiences, such as covering big global events like the AIDS crisis in South Africa, the Natalie Holloway case in Aruba, and the Oklahoma City bombings. These experiences have had a huge effect on how she writes as a writer. Faulkner says that her family, Nelson Mandela, Barbara Walters, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, and Diane Sawyer, among others, helped her grow as a person and in her work. Faulkner was born in Atlanta, Georgia, and grew up in a military family. This gave her a unique upbringing that included moving all over the world. Because her father was in the military and was stationed in places like Stuttgart, Germany, she learned about different cultures and how to be strong and flexible. For her academic work, Faulkner went to the University of California, Santa Barbara, where she finished her studies before beginning her professional life. She started her work in Los Angeles, then moved to Greenville, North Carolina, and finally settled down in Kansas City, Missouri. If you ask Faulkner, she has always had a soft spot for the Midwest, where she not only had professional success but also made close friends. In an interview with the Kansas City Star, Harris Faulkner talked about how much she misses her early days as a reporter and how much she still loves the Midwest, especially the Kansas City Chiefs. Even though Faulkner lives in New Jersey now, he still cheers for the Chiefs very loudly on game days. She happily wears Chiefs gear and has a lot of memorabilia in her home office to keep a strong connection to her Midwestern roots. During the chat, Faulkner also shared a funny story from her personal life. She talked about a fight she had with her husband over where to put his sports memorabilia in their home. Her tone was a mix of fun and determination as she joked that only the rug and wall art could stay because the rest of the house was already decorated in a Kansas-themed way. Faulkner joked that she needed some space to breathe in the middle of his collection. In 1999, when Faulkner was a news anchor in Kansas City, she was asked to sing the Star-Spangled Banner at Arrowhead Stadium in front of 70,000 people. It was a memorable time for her. She told Chiefs Wire that the event would always be in her mind and that she loved singing along when the national song was played. She shared an Instagram picture from that day in February 2021, right before the Chiefs played in the Super Bowl. When Faulkner talked to the Twin Cities Pioneer Press about her role on Saturday Night Live, she talked about the first time Leslie Jones copied her in April 2018. She thought the meeting was strange and was impressed by how well Jones caught who she was. Later that same year, Jones played her again, and Faulkner was amazed at how much they looked and sounded alike. Jones was even wearing the same icy blue dress that Faulkner did, which made the whole thing even stranger. In an interview with Variety, Faulkner said she would be open to Jones playing her in a movie, even if it required a lot of character work. She praised Jones's performance as her on SNL, even the fake eyebrows. On the other hand, Faulkner did not always enjoy imitation. Hasbro was sued by her in 2015 for putting her name on a toy hamster from their Littlest Pet Shop line without her permission. CNN Money reported that Faulkner's lawsuit said the unauthorized use of her name hurt her image as a journalist and gave the impression that she endorsed the product when she didn't. The claim also said that the toy looked a lot like Faulkner, including having the same skin tone, eye shape, and makeup style. The disagreement was settled in October 2016, with Faulkner making it clear that she did not agree to her name being used on the product. The product was then taken off the market. Harris Faulkner, who is known for her long trips, told Luxury Travel magazine that her honeymoon in Hawaii was the trip she would never forget. Her memories of the island will last a lifetime because of how peaceful and beautiful it was. Right now, she loves spending time at her family's home in Sedona, Arizona. There, she goes hiking, gets pampered at spas, and plays golf with her husband and kids. As well as Crane Beach in Barbados and Montauk in New York, Faulkner also loves other places. She thinks that East Coast beach spots are great for road trips from where they live in New Jersey when she travels with her kids. As Faulkner told Luxury Travel magazine, when she's not on the go, she finds peace in nature, whether she's hiking with her family, relaxing in her yard, or taking a walk along the beach. She thinks that spending time in nature and feeling the ground beneath her feet keeps her grounded and keeps her simple personality. People who follow Harris Faulkner are worried and curious about her possible exit from Fox News, which has led to a lot of rumors. Even though there are a lot of stories going around, Faulkner hasn't said anything or checked any of the information. If you like this video, please click the next button and share it with your friends.